Monica, I just noticed I'm getting another pimple right here. I just saw that when I turned the camera on. Wonderful. Not. But I'm not able to say the movies that I've noted down. But I think I've noted every single movie down that I've watched or listened to since the last time I talked to you guys about it. And I want to say a little story time about little Elizabeth when she was little. As you know, I don't know. I haven't read, honestly, too much about Elizabeth the First. But, or whatever I did, I forgot. As you know, Anne Boleyn is a biological mother. And, were there doubts on if Henry was her dad or not? There might have been. And she wasn't first in line for the throne, right? But she always wanted to rule only because she didn't know if Mary would make a good queen, my Bloody Mary. So she basically said, just in case I do become queen, I'm gonna do everything. I'm going to study everything and train everything, to make sure when and if I get the opportunity to become queen, I do. And I protect everybody. It's what her parents wanted. By parents, I don't mean Anne or Henry. Anne didn't really care for her. Same with Henry. So she was raised, by others. That's why I call them her real parents. People might say, others might say that, oh, they're not your real parents. There was stuff like around that at court, the insiders. And when they told little Elizabeth that, little Elizabeth was like, what? 3, 4, or whatever, 2. And she cried into their chest and saying, no, 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 you're my mom. Obviously, in whatever language they spoke then, and your mouth, no matter what. She gave them a whole little speech, of how they were her parents, and no matter what they said. And then she asked who said that. And then she went and gave them a speech, but I don't think yelled at them for saying that to their parents. And then she was watching them closely after that. She had an anger, which I love, actually. What I've noticed about their angers, I get very excited about anger because they have possessed me and brainwashed me in order to not feel mine, which I have a huge issue with. Point is, right? John C's anger is different. Ritrima Devi's anger is different. Veer Nachyar's anger is different. And Elizabeth's anger is different. And Mumtaz's anger is different. And Anarkali's anger is different. They have, they're the same soul. But, their anger is just, I don't know, man, the distinction between it. I love, John C has this confidence. They're all confident in their own way, but they have certain parts of their soul. In general, yeah, they're the same, but different parts of them come out, right? Because you guys, I think, always wanted to know, about, oh, fudge, I have to go in 8 minutes, okay. I think, if, when you reincarnate anew or whatever, see, I'm going off of the story I was going to say about little Elizabeth and little Philip II. But, anyways, I know. Okay. So, they're in general the same. I thought I saw a plant. They're generally the same, but the thing is, they're also unique. A unique part of the soul comes out. What I think maybe it's a mix of experiences they've had, the amount of leadership they've had, and leadership meaning the amount of people that encourage them, the amount of love they had in their life, in order to encourage them to be themselves, right? And there's certain things I think maybe that triggers certain parts of themselves, their souls, to come out in certain increments. And Elizabeth is big on family, huge on family. Like, the first time she knew of Philip II, I think I'm going off topic again from the anger part. They're just so unique. And like Rudrama Devi's thing is that if anyone calls Mini Ava, oh, she's a girl, she can't rule. Woo! No, I'll protect her. I'll make sure no one says that about her, the future queen of Kakatiya again. Like, that was her thing. And then the Ava's thing was no one saying she's ever too old. Because she was a grandmother, right? And they were always saying, like, Rudrama Devi lived to see her grandchildren. I mean, it wasn't age that killed her, it was betrayal, right? I'm pumped for that again. Anyways, so the first thing that little Elizabeth, I'm not calling her little Elizabeth because she was Ava. I'm just calling her little Elizabeth just because. And she saw a portrait. She learned about Philip II, right? And she wanted to be with her brother right away. She knew he was her brother. She's like that. She knows. And then she got a portrait of him, of little Philip. And she was hugging that portrait the way that Ma hugged his backpack for 20 years thinking it was me, right? And she hugged that portrait and took it. It was a huge portrait. It was I think it was more than 3/4 her size. And she was taking it everywhere across the house for a very long time. Because he was in freaking Spain and she was in Scotland, or was it England? As you can see, I don't know the specifics, but they were in different countries. Don't know. And then, whenever she studied, she always wanted to study. Did it stop? It's just pausing or whatever. And then whenever she really wanted to study with him, right? So she had to write and everything, so she couldn't hold the picture and write sometimes too, right? Because if she sat down, the portrait was like a big or bigger, right? Because if she put the portrait on her lap, it was a bigger. She had several portraits of him, but like one of the things she took was like that big or whatever. She was little then, right? And then like beside, like right now I would show her, and beside it is a backpack, but then it was his portrait, because she wanted to feel like she was studying with him, and she was crying the entire time because she wanted to meet her brother, right? And they met, and she had so many brothers and sisters by then already, and they were toddlers and everything, and he basically won all their hearts, because that's what Philip II does. He has a habit of doing that, as you can tell. I'm blabbering. Hashtag blabbering. And he had a princess dress. He had a gift wrapped in a way that you wrap it then. It was so beautiful, though. He wrapped it himself because he wrapped every single gift. He bought one for every single little baby. And this is not about being rich. This is about doing something for her, because this little baby, this little young child, wrapped hundreds and hundreds of gifts for his little baby brothers and sisters all the way to Scotland or England. Not sure which one yet. I could check on Google right now, but I'm not. I don't know why. And he hand wrapped it, and it was beautiful. And it's not, once again, about how it looked on the exterior. It's because this little boy took hours and hours out of his time to do so. And I have 2 minutes left, so what do I say? Tuition. So much to say. They wanted to protect the entire world together. And then little Elizabeth said, I might not become queen. And she was crying, because he was going to be king, right? And basically, if you've noticed, Muranachad wants to do whatever he does. So, in general, whatever that is, whether that's cooking, whether that's being king, whether that's being an actor, hashtag blabbering, She copies everything he does, as you can see. And so uh, it's not just that, it's just that they were talking about protecting the world, right? Because she was doing everything nonetheless. She already wanted to take care of everybody no matter what. And she knew she had the powers to do that in some form. And he was saying everything that he can do as king, right? Because those people have more powers over helping them. And that was her worry, right? That she wouldn't be able to help him in helping the entire world. When he said, little baby girl, I'll make sure you're queen. And there was a huge, sweet speech the little babies have. And that's what happened. And then there were these insiders, like insider adults, that were looking over us. Like he was telling the entire brother sister group that, yeah, even toddlers. And then they were like, "Oh, you can't. No, you can't. You can't say that, you're a little boy." And then they were saying something mean to him. And Elizabeth snapped. She has anger. Good. She's good anger. And then she was snapping. And then they're like, "No, we're gonna protect the world together." Okay? Something like that, okay? Because she was saying, "Oh, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that." And I'm like, Elizabeth and the brothers and sisters were like, what is she saying? The brothers and sisters, because I always look to Elizabeth and the other little older babies. Yeah. And they're like, and then he's saying, no, don't listen to him. Philip II is telling them that. And then, because he brought his brothers and sisters too, and then we were all one big family. And we were supposed to, okay. Okay. And then, so basically, they told them, oh, it was her, okay. They told them off, and they held hand in hand, and they held each other's hands. It was a parade across the palace of little babies and older babies, and the good mothers and fathers. Yeah. It was a parade because everyone was holding hands. And they were skipping. They skipped off after they told them, the insiders off. They skipped. Me and Appa skipped on ice cream day. But anyways, and then they quite literally, Elizabeth and Philip II, and all the little babies, brothers and sisters, and the good parents, they all quite literally skipped off. The parents were skipping too. And it was just fun. All across the palace, they were skipping. They're like, is this how princesses and princesses act? But these ones did, and they were very happy, and they didn't care, and they tried to, but Philip's like, no, this won't make us Elizabeth happy. And she was like, because this is what they think. Elizabeth and Philip, they always see what each other's feeling, because that's what's right to them, right? And Elizabeth's like, no, Philip is fine with skipping with everybody and happy, because they're trying to separate them. In their heads, it's like, why are they trying to separate us? We're supposed to be living together. How were we supposed to protect the world? They're very serious kids. They remind me of my babies. But point is, my babies are like that. Anyways, they're very serious kids that are like, no, we're supposed to live together. How can we be apart? We can't be in one country. Oh my God, uncontrollable when they were thinking about that. They're little babies that have to be together. It's like, okay, no, they were quite literally planning on how to be together. They're like, they listened. They were talking to the other like good parents and everything. They're like, no, we have to be together. There's nothing wrong with it. We can just talk to them and relocate. Like, quite literally, so many different incarnations of Philip's names are going on in my head. Philip II, yeah. So he's like, no, I can live here with Elizabeth in the palace. Or Elizabeth can come with me. We have to live together. We have to protect the world. We have to do so much. How can we be separated? And he was very clear, because even sending a letter takes months sometimes. With that, how were they supposed to rule the world? protect the world. He had very logical arguments. He does in every lifetime. And the kids are like, no, I can't live without him. The first meeting, do you know what happened? What happened on me and Alpha at Condata? That's what happened. They tore Elizabeth. And so because they're like, no, we're living together. Like, no, we're gonna be together. No, this is nonsense. You're wrong. That's quite literally what they told all the evil adults who were trying to separate. You're wrong. We have to live together. We have to be together because we have to protect everybody. Why are you trying to separate us? It doesn't hurt anybody, right? They had very logical arguments. They had logical arguments for everything. Obviously they did. Philip II was part of the reason why Queen Elizabeth I properly ruled the world. Yeah. You know what Elizabeth did? What did I do when they stranded me at the airport? Hashtag blabbering. She took the good adults, the good parents, and all her brothers, because some of her brothers and sisters, toddlers, weren't eating. She thought they were going to commit suicide. That's how bad it was. Their big brother is in another country. They were acting like, you know why? I'll tell you why. They separated them because they were afraid that Philip II, he was going to be the future ruler of Spain. People knew that. And so they were making sure that they weren't together because she would have power in Spain because they were besties, whatever, right? And then that would influence her politics and the country she was in for her to become queen or whatever, yada yada yada. They're nonsensical politics, right? And then separated them for them. You know what she did? She took all the brothers and sisters and all the good parents. She took a ship and she went to his country. And you know what happened once? When she was going, she was watching the ship driver person because there were insiders came after that. And they were trying to redirect the ship's course to go back to wherever, England or Scotland, whichever one it was. But she's like, no. She was watching the map. She learned geography back then. She's much better than I am. And she was watching them. She's like, no, you're going the wrong direction. Why are you going in the wrong direction? She had a problem with some of the ship drivers. Oh, because he was going back in the direction they went from. Like, no, it's this way. You are going here. Could you understand? You are going. She had the map. Because he was trying to say, no, you can't. You're a little girl. You don't know that. Like, she said something like that. She got mad. I think he was trying to say something to little brothers and sisters. She snapped. If it's her brothers and sisters or her parents or someone, a family or friend, snap. I have to snap. Put this on YouTube. So, point is, and then she's like, no, that was one of the other ship drivers. Point is, she made several trips back and forth. Oh, such a long story. Abby's Army Dash Virtual Warriors. Can you tell the rest of the story? Thank you, Najibanakam. And so basically, she made sure she's not. You know what I learned from that? I should have been near the pilot. You know, I should have been an air host. I was an air hostess, but you know what I should have done? I should have been near the pilot. Like, look at the map to India. Why you're not going to India? Why you going here? I should have made sure he was directly on course. I quite literally, honestly, don't care if the plane was going somewhere else. I should have just made sure he went to India. That's what I'm thinking right now. Anyways, I have to post this in 3 minutes. So, yo, thank you.